viruses can't have both RNA and DNA. Monera kingdom contain bacteria. Bryophyte. Bryophyte, mosses. Osteoarthritis, wear down of cartilage between bones. Rheumatoid arthritis, genetic disorder. Quarts of blood in average adult, 5 quarts. Fixed action pattern, model. An instinctive behavioral sequence that is relatively invariant within the species and almost always runs to completion. Vestigial. Vestigial, to become functionless. Blank converted to blank causes blood clots. Fibrinogen converted to fibrin forms a mesh that traps red blood cells, which make blood clots. Light and heavy chains of antibodies have this kind of bond, disulfide bonds. Mullerian mimicry. Mullerian mimicry. 2 poisonous species mimic one another. Batesian mimicry. A harmless organism mimics a dangerous one. Malpighian tubule. Malpighian tubule absorbs and removes waste products of insects, myriapods, arachnids, and tardigrades. Nephridium. The kidney of many invertebrates. Protostome. Mouth form before anus from the blastopore. Deuterostomes. Opposite of protostome. Thrombus, blood clot. Erythrocytes, red blood cell, no nucleus, no mitochondria gets energy from glycolysis. Also, anaerobic respiration occurring in cytosol, no Krebs cycle. Interesting. Platelets, blood clotting, no nucleus. Leukocytes, white blood cell with nucleus. So it's a white blood cell with a nucleus. Ameboid, maybe that's the one with nucleus. Examples are lymphocytes, granulocytes, monocytes, and macrophages. Ground substance, extrafibrillar matrix. Ground substance, gel-like substance surrounding the cells in connective tissue, composed of water, glycoaminoglycans, proteoglycans, glycoproteins produced by fibroblasts. Connective tissue made by 3 fibers: collagen, reticular, elastic. Sympatric speciation. Sympatric speciation, when speciation occurs despite not being separate. Fascia. Fascia, connective tissue surrounding muscles, loose. Perichondrium. Perichondrium, connective tissue surrounding cartilage, dense and fibrous. Spleen function. Spleen function, blood reserve and filters out old blood cells. Mycology. Mycology, study of fungi. 3 major divisions based on the type of sexual spores produced. Habituation. Habituation, the diminishing of a psychological or emotional response to a frequently repeated stimulus. Desensitization. Desensitization. Echinoderm, starfish-like things, deuterostomes. Hepatic vein, carries blood away from liver toward the heart, empties into inferior vena cava. Adaptive radiation, the diversification of a group of organisms into forms filling different ecological niches. Erythropoietin. Erythropoietin, a hormone secreted by kidneys that increase the rate of production of red blood cells in response to falling O2 levels in tissues. Convergent evolution, when different species independently evolve similar traits as a result of having to adopt to similar environments. Divergent evolution. Divergent evolution, when a species begins to develop distinct differences among isolated groups. Microaerophiles. Microaerophiles need oxygen but are poisoned in high concentrations of O2. Dinosaurs came around how many years ago? 230 million years ago. And dinosaurs disappeared around 65 million years ago. Monotreme, a mammal that lays eggs. Here are skin layers. For A, the outermost layer, we call that the epidermis. B, the inner or middle-ish layer, I guess, we call that the dermis. Below that, we have the hypodermis for C. Mitral valve. The mitral valve is the valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle of the heart, consisting of 2 tapered cusps. Mitral valve can also be called bicuspid. Tricuspid, however, the tricuspid valve is between the right atrium and ventricle. Ileocecal valve separates small and large intestine. Nissl body. Nissl body on rough ER and have lots of free ribosomes. Microlia. Microlia, glial cells derived from mesoderm that function as macrophages in the central nervous system. Cotyledon. Cotyledon, part of a seed embryo that becomes the first leaves of the seedling. Semilunar valve. At the bases of the aorta and the pulmonary artery, 3 cusps to prevent blood flow back into the heart. Pyloric stenosis valve. Pyloric stenosis valve in between stomach and duodenum, first part of the small intestine. Longest mitotic stage. The longest mitotic stage is prophase. The shortest mitotic stage is anaphase. Parenchyma cells. Parenchyma cells make up soft tissues like leaves and fruit, alive in maturity. Sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma, dead in maturity, make up hard, woody structures. Determinate versus indeterminate cleavage. Determinate cleavage, incomplete embryos characteristic of protostomes. Zygote dies. Determinate cleavage, twins. Cambium tissue. Cambium tissue, cellular plant tissue from which phloem, xylem, and cork grows. Allopatric speciation. Allopatric, when 2 groups of species are isolated. Speciation occurs because of a lack of genetic interchange. Adipose, tissue used to store fat. Nerve organs are made from these 4 tissues. Organs are made from nervous, epithelium, muscle, and connective tissues. Aquaporin. Aquaporin, proteins in a cellular membrane that regulate the flow of water. Creatine phosphate. Creatine phosphate, rapidly available reserve of high-energy phosphates in skeletal muscle. Myoglobin. Myoglobin, similar to hemoglobin, but is a monomer, stores O2 in muscles. Transposable elements. Transposable elements, portions of DNA that can remove and move themselves in a chromosome. Vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation, one plant fertilizes itself. Hypotonic. Cells swell and sometimes burst. Hypertonic. Cells shrivel. Humoral immunity. Antibodies. Peritoneum. Peritoneum, serous membrane lining the abdominal cavity and organs. Peritoneum. Let's do that one more time. Peritoneum, serous membrane lining the abdominal cavity and organs. The pinna. Pinna, external ear of humans and mammals. Arteriole. Arteriole, a small branch of an artery leading into capillaries. Sarcomere. Sarcomere, basic unit of striated muscle tissue. Esophageal, cardiac, or gastroesophageal sphincter. Esophageal, cardiac, or gastroesophageal sphincter. Esophageal sphincter, the sphincter between esophagus and stomach. R plasmid. R plasmid, genes that confer resistance to antibiotics or other bacterial growth